If the Aravallis disappear in the next 20 years, will Delhi run out of water? Well, this is not a dramatic question, it is a geographical one. The Aravallis are not just a hill range which you underline in your NCERT books, they are a ecological system where they help in regulating climate, recharging the groundwater, controlling the desertification, and quietly shaping the North India's ecological stability. Yet, the Aravallis have entered courtrooms, be it in terms of the lobbying of the mining, the real estate impact, as well as the challenges of just defining what are Aravallis. So this is not a academic question anymore. The fundamental question here we need to ask is, why do we need to define a ecological system as such Aravallis in terms of height? Hello everyone, this is Venkatesh, where in which I'll be taking the fundamental important topics for UPSC, where I'll be discussing Aravallis not just through a geographical lens, but decoding into various lenses in terms of economy, environmental polity, so that a UPSC aspirant is trying to understand the critical thinking needed out of the discussions of such important topics like Aravallis. Let us now decode the Aravallis topic in detail. Let's start from the geographical lens. If you see the Aravallis, they are extended across the states of Gujarat, Rajasthan, Haryana, and even the National Capital Territory of Delhi. The controversy about this Aravallis recently is it has been repeatedly in courtrooms identifying what constitutes Aravallis. It has been since so many years, and considering all these kind of controversies associated with ecosystems in the courtrooms, the Supreme Court has asked the environmental minister to form a committee and then underline what constitutes Aravallis, and thereby they have given a work to a committee, and that committee has given a recommendation about wherein which these Aravallis they have recommended that anything above 100 meters should be considered as the Aravallis, and that has raised all the concerns with respect to ecology. So let's understand how does UPSC can ask questions from this topic. What are the critical aspects you as an aspirant should be aware of? If you see here, these are the basic things which you need to be aware. Where do you have the Aravallis? You all know that Aravallis are also fold mountains, one of the oldest fold mountains. But because these are the oldest, older than the Himalayas, they have been significantly eroded. That's why you don't find as a continuous hill range like Himalayas in some of the places. They have been significantly eroded because of mining and all those kind of things. And such kind of mining and have significantly increased in the last few years or few decades is the reason why we are discussing at a lengthy manner now, right? So these are some of the aspects you need to be aware about, which states, what is their impact and all. Now, if you see, go through further, one of the student has given some of the basics here in terms of where are they located, which states are there in, which era they have formed. They also identified major peaks like the Guru Shikhar peak, which is having almost 1,722 meters, which is in Rajasthan, which is the highest point of this Aravallis. So these are some of the points which you need to be aware. Of course, the student has given much more information. We will discuss all these kind of things in detail. If you see here, why are we discussing Aravallis? Because Aravallis are having huge significance in terms of climate, in terms of controlling the ecology of North India. So this is a physiographic barrier. This barrier is helping in preventing the dust storms coming from the dry land areas of Rajasthan and the associated Thar Desert in Pakistan and the dry areas of Iran as well. Without this kind of Aravallis acting as a barrier, these dry dust winds and all will enter into the northern plains of the India, and it will threaten our agriculture security also. Not just that, just defining the Aravallis by a hill range, you are ignoring the valleys, you are ignoring the ridges, you are ignoring the hillocks, which act as a crucial point of aquifer recharge. So any ecological system, it's a continuous thing, right? So this is the huge significance. Not just that, there we have discussed about how these are climatic regulator controlling the dust and all coming from the west, how they are a barrier to desertification, and how they are about even groundwater recharging, how they help in groundwater recharge. Not just that, you also have cultural significance. The Aravalli Ranges are part of cultural centers like Chittorgarh Fort, and so many such things are there. Not just that, you have the human habitats, the tribals living here using forest as a base for their livelihood. And yet, another important significance of the Aravallis which you have is the minerals, which is the reason why we have the lobby. Because it is the oldest mountain range, you have so much amount of minerals, be it in terms of limestone, marble, sandstones, copper, zinc, tungsten, right? And this has historically made it as a mining hub as well. And this has contributed to regional economies. It has given enough revenue to the government. It has created jobs for the people. And in the process, it is also helping in terms of the growing the construction needs of this area, right? So this is a classic debate about at what point should we consider ecology versus economy. This is the classic debate in the modern era, right? So it has huge significance. That is the reason why the mining lobbies are very much interested with these kind of things. So on one side, you have huge minerals. On another side, very, very close proximity, you have Delhi, the NCR region, which is fueling the demand for be it in terms of real estate, be it in terms of the minerals needed for all the construction activities, limestone, marble, and all such kind of things. Now, the problem is, in the past, we have banned mining in Delhi, but such kind of banning did not give much returns at the ground level because we haven't yet developed any kind of task force looking into the illegal mining and all. In such, the illegal mining has been so rampant that even a DSP rank police officer was killed a few years ago. So we have seen that there were so much amount of illegal mining across the areas. Under such circumstances, protecting the broader Aravallis areas and in terms of balancing both environmental and economical needs is what we need. But rather than that, it is clearly seen that we are taken the interest of few, the interest of a selected few against the larger interest of the society here. This is the complex challenge which we have seen here. Let us see the great debate between the ecological aspects of Aravallis and the economic aspects. On the economic side, you have the mining, which is providing jobs, revenue for the government, as well as helping in terms of the construction activity in the NCR region. We know that Delhi needs resources, and that for the growth of Delhi, we need the mining, we need the minerals and all. So there is a genuine need for such kind of mining. But at what cost? Now let us see the ecology. We have just seen how they help in recharging the groundwater. You see, if this is a mountain system, there are so many rivers which are also flowing from the Aravallis, which you can discuss. Say you have the inland Luni River, which is originating from the Aravallis. You have the Sabarmati River, which is originating from the Aravallis. And you have the rivers like Banas, which is part of the Yamuna river system, tributaries, right? So we have Aravallis acting as a great divider, and they are also a source of wonderful ecosystems of water. So I have given one example. Now you have to understand very clearly one aspect here, which is easier to reconstruct. Can we reconstruct an economy? Can we reconstruct an ecological thing? You all know the answer. Once there is been irreparable damage to ecosystems, it is very, very difficult for ecosystems to replenish further. So that is where we need to take a call at what point we can consider that the larger interest of the society here has to be taken care of rather than interest of the selected few. This is where the complexity comes into the picture in terms of polity, in terms of legality, and in terms of controlling the things at the ground level, or rather, for that matter, implementing the things at the ground level. So, this is the great debate which needs to be aware. You see, there are lots of controversies here. I have never seen any kind of an ecological system being provided with respect to definitions. Tomorrow, will you define Ganga in the same way? If the Ganga doesn't have enough water, will you stop calling it as Ganga? Where do you stop? Where does the buck stops here? You need to understand who is responsible for this. You see the controversy here and a great ecological concern. And measuring the hill's height. How do you tend to measure the hill's height? As per this, they have identified that the lowest elevation was the local profile. With respect to the local profile, if it is more than 100 meters, we will be calling it as Aravallis. Imagine this is the local profile, and if the height is at 90 meters, will you stop calling it as Aravallis now? So with this concern of identifying the local profile as a base for the height, you have given almost a scope for 90% of loss of Aravallis. This is one of the major concerns. You cannot take the local profile, the height, as a point of identifying the hill ranges. Largely across the world, you tend to see the mean sea level as the base, and that is where you tend to identify. How can you identify with respect to local profile? For example, let me help you in terms of understanding broadly this aspect. You see here, this is the sea level, and then imagine these are the Aravallis. Now, they are trying to identify height, say, from a local profile here, 90 meters, 100 meters and all. So this is having one such concern. That's why naming the Aravallis defining Aravallis with respect to height, that too using the local profile, has become a huge concern. Not just that, they also defined another point that, so there is one aspect of defining controversy with respect to the height as 100 meters. Height as 100 meters. This is one controversy because they did not use no mean sea level. They have used local profile. This is one such controversy. Local profile is identifying the heights at that respective area, right? Then the another controversy is in terms of hill range. So they have said that if two such kind of hill ranges which are having more than 100 meters height, if they are close to a 500 meters radius, then it can be considered as Aravallis. This is also one such controversy. So you have completely defined in that way, you have ignored the role of valleys, ignored the role of ridges, the hill outcrops, and all such kind of things which can also constitute a continuity. So ecological people raised concerns with respect to the system acting as a continuity rather than as a one disturbing point. These are some of the controversies which you have seen, right? Then what we need? Largely, we need to balance the economic needs as well as the ecological needs. So we need to identify scientifically which areas are meant for mining. So there has to be some designated scientifically assessed monitoring agents, monitoring areas in terms of mining, because we need to also take care of the interest of the cities. We need to also conserve the ecologically conserving areas, protected areas where there should not be mining, no construction, which are ecologically very fragile. There are so many kind of wildlife reserves, sanctuaries, and there are so much amount of wildlife which need to be preserving. So we need to take care of the broader landscape management, divide them into multiple layers, and identify which are no-go, which are maybe going, and regulate them, and certain things which you can particularly identify for mining. So this is what we need to do. One. Then, how do you prevent illegal mining? Illegal mining is also another important theme which is running here. So have you formed any kind of a task force? Are you using the technologies like drones in terms of identifying where illegal mining is happening and trying to prevent them? For example, in 22 itself, Haryana has lost a DSP police officer for illegal mining. So there is a threat level of that level where we have lost a police officer itself. So that is there. Even UPSC has asked a case study on this topic in ethics on the same point, right? How are you controlling the broader ecosystem rather than dividing the ecosystem with respect to height? It should be another point. So there is a need for ecosystem restoration and management in the long term, right? So all these kind of things should be taken into considerations, right? That should be the topic for today, where you have to identify how balancing mineral extraction and ecological security remains a key challenge in fragile regions such as Aravallis. This should be the question for you, right? Understand this. Moving forward, beyond the geographical lens, I want you guys to question from the political point of view, the political science, public administration students, you would be aware about this topic quite well. So I want the GS students to observe from this angle as well. You all can understand here. Does relying on judiciary for the environmental protection indicate a failure of India's environmental regulatory institutions? So however the executives are responsible for that at the ground level, and why should we have to rely on industry, rely on judiciary? This should be an important question which you need to understand. And then when the courts have himself identified, ignoring these aspects and identified 100 meters as a baseline, you should ask these kind of questions. Are courts equipped with the technical and scientific expertise required to regulate complex ecological systems? Right? How effective are court orders when enforcement still depends on weak local administration? We have to ask these kind of questions. Can judicial bans and orders substitute for long-term environmental governance? You see, in Delhi, 91, the water levels are around 30-40 feet from the groundwater levels are 30-40 feet from the surface. Now it is more than 200-250. One of the reason was illegal rampant mining of Aravallis, and that's why they have banned it. This banning could not work because the protection which you have done it for Delhi has been shifted to other areas. So how these judicial bans are working, how these are not providing results at the ground level, you have to see these questions. Judicial bans substituting for long-term environmental governance and administrative capacity. My dear, one of the things in our country I tend to see is there is a call for banning whenever a controversy erupts, but how are these bannings are effective enough? Are they helping to bring in a long-term solution for such kind of problems? We are not seeing it. There has to be a continuity of such kind of things in the long run with proper implementation mechanisms. So it's very easy to frame a law. It is difficult to implement a law. This is one of the aspects which you need to be studying. And one of the things which I have also loved is about the role of pressure groups. Save Aravallis campaign. Most of you have watched Instagram reels, right? This sharing of Instagram reels, understanding it is nothing but how you are acting as a pressure group. Because Aravallis are so significant, the people have come across to the ground, and based on that, there was a temporary halt on mining. There is a call about this debate. There has been a call about this mining. Supreme Court is looking into this issue in detail, and all those things are happened thanks to pressure groups working efficiently both at the ground as well as in the digital space. My dear, you go back to Lakshmikant's book, study how are the pressure groups are acting, which will be helping for you guys in the polity point of view. Okay, so now you see, I hope you all got the points, the trade-offs between environment versus economy. I hope you understood the challenges at the ground level. I hope how the question on implementation you have understood, ecosystem restoration you have understood, right? My dear, once you debate a topic, discuss a topic, deconstruct in various lenses, observe the things, you will understand the things quite easily. This is the sole purpose of this session. This session, this space is all about asking the right questions, making you think so that the critical thinking in you is growing day by day, helping in you in terms of understanding a topic from various lenses so that it will help you in all overall development of your preparation process. That is what we need, right? With this is Venkatesh signing off. We'll meet again next week with a new topic on ThinkHeist. Thank you, all of you.